Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. How low can we go? 47% with 2014's The Town That Dreaded Sundown. So you're probably listening to this on Facebook. I just want to put this at the top of the show. That way it's not the end. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. But if you're listening to this and you love the show, please consider heading over to iTunes. Apparently these are very important. Consider giving us a 5-star review. If you listen to our Batman episode, we were requesting riddles in exchange for a 5-star review. I haven't seen any riddles. So throw us your best riddle and we will on a review on iTunes and we will try to solve it in the next episode. Okay, now let's jump into this movie, George. We haven't seen the original Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Correct.
So
I've seen most of it in pieces over time. But
okay.
I never sat down and watched it end to end.
And I've grown up getting it confused with Dark Knight the Scarecrow. So
Indeed.
that is sort of our background with this movie. We watched it on Tubi.
And that's kind of all this franchise is, but until this movie.
Yeah, we watched it on Tubi, which made it very interesting. Because after there's it wasn't bad. Like the commercials, I think that there was like 5 breaks, 2 minutes apiece with commercials. But like the first kill happens, and then it cut to a shampoo commercial, and I didn't know it was cutting to commercial, and I was like, whoa, this movie's going all over the place, man. It's like 70s kind of like trashy film kind of feel, but then like beautiful commercials. I didn't know where it was going.
And the commercials are obviously 50 times louder than the thing, and
brighter,
and the transitions were rough. And I'm glad you brought this up at the top, because it was a testimony to how good the kills were in this movie, that some of those transitions were really hard to make, because you were watching very awful things happen to the human form, and all of a sudden, Pantene!
I want to get hired by Tubi to like be their horror dude and just put commercials
to combine.
Yeah, so it could be like super inappropriate timings, you know what I mean? It's like just like really bad shit.
It was amazing how like some of the awfully times the transitions were. Okay, so
2014. It was a low budget movie, right, directed by Alfonso Gomez.
And this the Hollow Going Go series. We're now at 4.
I hope I said that last name right. I took a confident stab at it, but
You're good.
Okay,
I'm gonna fight for him. So he's
okay. And the composer is, we looked it up. We can't. It's Ludwig something. He did the Mandalorian theme. That's all you need to know. He's that guy. I don't want to get it. I have to let.
You're too accurate.
I have to let Apple know. Yeah, it's too. That's what I'm saying. It was a human reenaction. It was not the Walt Disney Corporation's playing of the Mandalorian theme.
Your disclaimer voice is better than
that was my Bob Iger. That was my Bob Iger. Here at the Walt Disney Corporation, I wear nice sweaters and let Bob Chapek throw this company into the ground.
I want you to randomly throw quotes from this movie at me in Bob Iger's voice as this podcast.
Every Bob Iger quote has to start, because it is masterclass. Every line is like the Walt Disney Corporation. Like that's he always says.
He's underwater.
He does.
Okay.
Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Yes.
Order in the court.
Yes.
Order of discussion.
Yes.
First thing we have to talk about.
What's the most important thing about this movie?
The look and the sound of this movie.
Yep. Whatever this movie does well is Venn diagrammed hugely into the look and sound of the movie. The further the Venn diagram gets away from the look and sound, and the closer it gets to story, the more in trouble this movie gets. So the look and sound are phenomenal. It's a really unique, and the thing is, I knew there had to be an explanation for why this franchise is so tiny, right? And then the mystery grew when I actually watched this movie, and I'm like, oh, it looks really good. The kills are super savage and whatever, but apparently financially it was a complete disaster. So that's part of the part of the explanation.
That's not good.
Why the franchise went nowhere. But it's baffling when the look of this movie. There were shots across, like various opening shots across main streets in this movie, where I swore it was. I'm like, is Christopher Nolan filming? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, it was
on this budget is tiny for this film, and it looks amazing.
It was interesting. It had a very I don't know, scrambled bag of shots like that. So it would go from like those beautiful shots to then like really harsh, very 70s looking shots. I keep thinking of like the funeral home, and it looked like every lamp in there had just the brightest orange bulb they could find on planet Earth. It just had that 70s look. And you know what's always interested me about?
There was one moment, remember, where there was a couple talking and we thought they were being abducted by aliens?
Oh yeah,
they
there
were
was
in a
just this
light
one.
so hard.
Yeah, dude, it's just.
We looked up, we were like, wait. Are they about to be beamed?
Yeah, we were watching them. like you just thought like some Plan 9 stuff was gonna happen.
Sorry.
But that's always been what's sort of fascinating me about 70s cinematography, because this movie very much leaned into like late 70s House of the Devil-ish kind of like how they try to get that 70s look, but also like the thing with 70s films, and this is why I'm not the biggest 70s fan, is when I think of 70s cinematography and the way that 70s films look, it's usually like that. It's usually like a really dirty, grimy film stock with a lot of like browns and orange tints to it, which this movie had, which was what it was leaning into. But I always get confused. Here's the thing though. But then there's also movies in the 70s like The Exorcist or Blowout.
Sure.
Or
the blues and greens.
Yeah, it still looks modern to this day, and this movie kind of does that, and that's why 70s cinema is always kind of like conflicted me. I'm like, do I love you or do I hate you?
Right.
And it's a very case by case thing. But this movie did both of those.
Right? Are you like this amazing onyx gemstone, or are you like Tatooine? Or
yeah. Just this.
What are you? Right?
This hard. Which, by the way, here at the Walt Disney Corporation, we released the trailer for Obi-Wan.
I did it,
and it actually looked pretty good. I saw it. I wasn't excited for it, but I was like, that trailer looks really good.
It's gotta be good. All right, so yeah, no. The thing is, what you're saying is right. The weird part to me is that this looked really like dirty, but then there was an intensity to the kills that the landscape became part of.
Yeah.
Right. And so first of all, when we're talking about look and feel, the opening of this movie is one of the best openings to a slasher.
I'm pretty sure they did this on the Last Drive. I think they did the original on the Last Drive-In.
Okay.
I think, which totally makes sense, because when you see the Drive-In logo, you think of Joe Bob almost immediately.
Naturally. But I loved the environment, the tracking shot across, like, introducing everyone like you were in a Netflix crime series. You're getting red herring people, like, introduced to you, like maybe that's a killer, because it's kind of a thriller. It's very Zodiac-y in its, nature or whatever. And then
especially with the two kids.
Yeah, and the Reverend it set up a little thing to heckle people on the way into the drive-in, which I love. The Reverend's the Lost Boys. Yeah, which is incredible. Like, I mean,
Richie Rich's dad, so I know.
Oh, right.
Yeah, or the Gilmore Girls' grandpa. That's he's one of those actors.
Right.
He's always someone from a movie. Yeah. Right.
But it's, I mean, all of that environment, and then that's just the beginning, was just to set up that scene to follow people who leave and then go get killed. And the one of the things about this movie that I love is that the look is in tandem with the fact that the movie isn't going to make the obvious horror movie choice most of the time. Mm-hmm. Like, most of the time you think, oh, this first couple we're following, it's the drive-in killer. I mean, there's a couple going out to make out. They're all going to die, but she doesn't die. Right. And then something about what happens in that scene at the end and the twist is right, not something a horror movie usually does.
No.
So the movie's like making these weird choices, but while it's making these weird choices, it's making weird camera moves. I swear to God, I've never watched a horror movie where I've been bafflingly reminded of Children of Men so many times.
Really?
Yeah, it's so weird, because it was just, we were moving with the camera at times we shouldn't have been moving with the camera. Like, they were doing these weird, adventurous camera choices, right? Like, yeah. But they, like with Sam Raimi, he's got a strategy, right? You can tell you're in a strategy. He knows, I'm going to zoom it here, and like, there was no strategy here. They were just like, this might look cool,
dude. I thought that it's so crazy you said that. When there's a kill and the woman is then posted up like a scarecrow, they do like a little dolly, like zoom into the thing. And to me, when I was watching it, I was like, They did it like that because they just thought it would look cool.
Totally, it's
And
a grab bag, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. That's the thing.
It's one of those things like when you're on set, like how do you not do that? You know what I'm saying? Like it's good. Like when you're there, you're like, yeah, that's gonna look great.
right. Well, if you have a higher level plan, maybe,
Yeah.
But regardless, I think the movie does it looks amazing. It looks
It's what you do when you have fun.
right, and and just like The Strangers Pray at Night. There's more outdoor than in The Strangers. There's like outdoor killing here. And when you don't have that confinement claustrophobia, you got to have it look menacing. And they did such a good job of making the kills look savage and framing them in savage circumstances, right? Because a lot of times that really falls down in a lot of movies. Like, so I'll give you an example, like one of the best Jason kills of all time, the punch, the takes Manhattan, like punch the head off.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that punch is iconic, right? But that background looks terrible, right? Like that's not a shot you put up on your wall. It's a very cheap. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there's a boom mic shadow in there. Like right. But this stuff, there's like it looks really good behind it. The music, you didn't notice the music while we were watching it.
No, I didn't notice the music at all. Like that was very like the least thing. I'm still stuck on the visuals though, because there's a scene where the lone wolf comes in and they're in the office. They're in like the police headquarters, and all of a sudden it looks like a Michael Bay shot. Like all of a sudden, remember, like all of a sudden, like to me, it would just look like $1 million shot. And I don't know, it's strange because all the cops are like behind. They're all eating food. It's really weird. They're the one cop's always he's like in church with like a chicken wing in his hand. I'm like, why is this guy always eating? That $1 million, I call it the $1 million shot because it just looked like an expensive shot. Just so this movie's always just jarring you with the visuals itself. Like it's either harsh and then it gives you a little breathing room. Like I don't know.
Maybe that's why I was reminded of Children of Men. I felt off kilter. I didn't know what was happening, which is going to transition great to our order of discussion.
Yeah, I saw for sounds the music. The cool sounds was all at the drive-in stuff. I really liked it. Anytime you can hear like an older movie track playing and you see like modern movies over there, like you know something bad's gonna happen. That kind of setup I'm always a sucker for.
I like the sounds of the setups of the kills too. I thought it's weird that we saw this after the Batman because there was so much where killers were emerging from the shadows with very minimal, low, sinister music.
Yes, it was
both movies were like doing that a lot.
Was quite weird. Okay, that's the first order discussion. I feel great about that. Number 2, what and why is this movie?
What is this movie?
Reminds me of a quote from the Walt Disney Corporation movie Guardians of the Galaxy. What is Drax? Just sliding them in. So I was torn a little bit with how much love of what this movie was, because obviously it's like a sequel-y homage, love to the original. I just keep calling it a hybrid in my movie or in this movie.
Meta documentary.
Meta kind of thing. Like there was a point in time before like the halfway point. I think it was the second commercial interruption we had, where I was sort of bummed that this movie kept cutting back to the original. Like almost kind of inexplicably, you know what I mean? Yes. It just kept cutting back to it, and it was kind of annoying me at first. This grew on me last of everything, and I kind of like it now. But when we were watching it
reverse grew on me.
yeah.
I hated it a little bit more than I did, and you liked it a little more than you did. I think it did rely too much on the old.
That's what annoyed me about it is we know that.
I mean, the movie's only an hour 20. And 20 of it might be the other movie.
And that's what disappointed me the most. I kind of wish they had just leaned into just being their own thing more. It kind of just kept feeling like, hey Dad, like can I, am I still good, Dad? Can I have a couple clips here? And like they just kept pulling from like stop it. Like we understand like in this movie the movie exists, the director's son still lives there, but like be your own thing. I wish it was its own thing a little bit more.
Right. See, so the thing from our, or at least my new favorite YouTuber, what makes the song sing. Where he's talking about you had to steal it and then add a twist.
I was thinking about that after
because
the movie
that's
ended.
what they're doing in this movie is they're stealing and then adding a twist, or like most of the time, right? And I felt like they were doing well enough at that most of the time to whatever. So the fact that they were incorporating a lot of the old movie, I felt like because the movie didn't take off and become as big as they wanted it to. They kind of had to they were their own world building machine.
Right.
They had to be their own world building machine. And I think
Right.
it led them astray to use the other one a little too much. But it didn't hurt it that bad for me. I mean, let's be honest. This isn't like, this movie isn't, to be a masterpiece to me. I just think it's probably going to land higher than where, it's aggregated right now. Okay.
Yeah, no,
But we don't know what this movie is. We don't know who it's servicing.
Yeah, to me, it just kind of felt like these cats wanted to make a horror movie. They loved the original, and then they had this idea, and they just went out and made a fun horror movie. Like
Gave us an amazingly lethal drinking game or worms game. What was you kept?
Oh, anytime they said
Texarkana.
Texarkana, it was eat a spoonful.
When you're
of
watching
beans.
this movie, beans. That's
Yeah.
right. If you're watching this movie. Here's our challenge to you. Watch this movie, and every time they say the word Texarkana...
Or you see it.
Or see it. No, here it's enough.
There's
not gonna make it either
there's
way.
one prominent one where it's like dead center of the screen.
Okay.
And you can't, you have to honor it.
You see it. Every time you hear or see the word Texarkana, eat a spoonful of beans.
Yeah,
And then
black beans,
tell us
baked
how it goes for
beans.
you.
Yeah, by the end of it, it's not going to be pretty. It's not. It's just you're gonna look like Christopher Lloyd at the end of Dennis the Menace. He's got like a mouthful of beans.
It was interesting that there were two investigations going on either side of either city, and sometimes they weren't.
I wish they
were
had
clashing with each other, and they weren't hand in hand. That's where it got Zodiac-y.
I wish the movie was better written or it had more chops.
What do you
behind
mean
it.
better written? It has the Gary Cole dying scene. This movie is Citizen Kane.
Yeah, you're right. What was I thinking? No, but because the idea of investigation Arkansas side, investigation Texas side, like that back and forth dynamic is. I thought that was actually really fucking.
It was cool. I actually loved
I just wish they had went more into that. They couldn't because they were honoring the original so hard that if they had been their own thing, like that investigation of the dual sides, I think could have led to something really awesome.
I agree. I really did like all that parts. Everything that was happening there was good.
Yeah. So that's what is and why is this movie? We're still not.
I don't know. It's a sequel, I guess, but it's a hybrid sequel.
It's a hybrid of some sorts,
right? And then why? I'm not exactly sure. And then there were no more. So I think we got the answer. Whatever they thought the answer to why was probably wrong.
In the film, they do mention the legend of Boggy Creek,
right?
And
Well,
so,
the director, and that's a weird twist, by the way. There's I don't think has a horror movie ever done this before. There's a fictional son of a real director in this movie. There's a made-up child for a real person who made the movie. That's a very odd turn of events.
No,
but it was another red herring that they had to do.
Yeah, and I did. Well, what I was saying was if these filmmakers decide to do Legend of Boggy Creek, then the why is this movie is apparent because they're just going to go do that that guy's that guy's filmography, and then it's like, okay, well, at least we have an answer for that. Watching them film the original in this movie, I always like when there's a film crew in a movie. I don't know why, I just think it always looks cool, and it kind of, like before we were recording, I said it kind of reminded me a little bit of Shadow of the Vampire,
Which I like.
Yeah, and which we really like. So this movie just kind of wavers back and forth a little bit.
Now, what's the next order of discussion?
The killer, the Phantom.
Okay, because this is the fun part.
Potato Sack Jason.
So until the end, it's amazing.
It's intense. The close-ups of the eyes,
right? The design, the look, the kills, how the kills are executed, and I was telling you while we were watching this movie, I don't think I've ever seen a movie killer just get down to killing as fast as this killer is doing, and it's the way a killer would kill if they were like mean and crazy, but also wanted to minimize their chance of getting caught. It seems like horror movie killers never care about getting caught. They just never get caught, but they don't care about it.
Yeah,
right?
they just do it.
They just linger or do moves or, like write on the wall messages or like there's none of that for this killer. By the time you see this killer, you're dead.
It's already over.
Right.
The what I wanted to go back and rewatch is, spoiler alert, they scream to it and they scream it. There's two killers at the end, but there's also like a ton of close-ups of the Phantom's eyes. And I wanted to go and see if like I could have sworn that one close-up the eyes were brown and one close-up the eyes were like blue. And I didn't start to think about that, and maybe until the end. And I kind of want to go back and see if they alternate before, just to like throw the audience
They
off.
moved a little different, I noticed this time, knowing the ending.
Really?
Yeah. It's interesting.
I kind of want to go back and watch some of the scenes.
Yeah, it's interesting how they're playing the two, because they have slightly different styles, which is interesting. And it's funny. I'm not actually against the two killer thing. It was a very cool side effect in this movie that it explained like the Michael Myers thing or the Jason thing,
right?
Because she would be running and he would just be walking, but then he would catch her and you'd be like, how the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's always supernatural, but it wasn't supernatural. It was the two killer thing, which could be cool. It could be the explanation for why,
right?
Like the slow moving killer is catching people. But the problem is you straight up rip it off and don't have a compelling reason for it. And then the characters you picked to make the killers were a fail.
It
would have worked if you had picked well.
Yeah, that was a fail, and the way they killed the phantoms.
Total fail. They killed each other. I mean, I guess that makes sense since they were both the best killers in the movie. I kind of like it now. Wait a minute.
No, the one phantom killed the other, and then the other one's getting ready to stab our final girl within reach of a pistol. And somehow, while he's like straddling her, she's able to grab the gun, turn around, ice him between the eyes.
Yeah, but the other killer was fatally wounded by the other killer. Then they were fighting it out, and he was trying to kill her. But even if he killed her, he was going to die in that field. The killers canceled each other out.
Oh, okay.
And then it was just, were they going to get her before they died, right? I mean, that's how I remember it going down. I think they took each other out, and then it was just like, is he going to be able to get her? It's like when
I'm surprised she lived. She had 2 arrows in her. Good Lord.
Those were intense arrows.
Yeah, those were very intense.
But the kills were super creative, visually interesting.
They were very good. There's
better than they had to be for a movie like this.
And brutal, man. There were the one scene where the one girl is banging her military boyfriend, and he takes his severed head and breaks the window, which was cool. I like that. Oh, and her jumping out of the window. Anytime someone jumps out from something more than like one story in a horror movie, you know the next thing you're gonna see is a close up of their ankles and a bone sticking out. There's almost no. In every,
it's a law, like you said.
It is a law, and it will always make my.
But they added a twist. They stole it, but added their twist. This is what makes this.
Yes,
because she had to try to drive.
She had to try to pump
so
push the brake while starting her car, and you just see her put like, I don't know, as much pressure as she could given the circumstance,
right.
And you just see her like trying to move, and then she screams, and you just felt it.
No,
but the Phantom then going into the car, and then he just kind of like grabs her, just starts stabbing the shit out of her, and it's really brutal, and blood splattering all over the car, and it looked awesome, like from a horror perspective.
He also talked a lot in the beginning, which slasher villains don't usually do, and it worked, which is hard to do. Try to write a whole bunch of dialogue for your slasher villain with sometime, but it worked in this one because they just Zodiac'd it.
Yeah, and that plays to the brutality of the killer. He didn't waste any time, straight to the point. He also, what we thought was interesting was, it's so kind of weird. I'm like, does this voided of the title slasher if he doesn't have a knife? Because he used a gun quite a bit. Like, he just straight up just shot people.
He was shooting people the way, I felt like the gunfights were staged the way the gunfight between Josh Brolin and Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men is staged.
Yes.
It was, it was just a lot of dark. Couldn't really tell what was happening. A lot of people, one of them were just firing blindly. The other one really knew what he was doing. Like, it was
there was 2 different skill sets, gaps.
It was interesting.
Throwing lead at you. And then one of them, he's like Lee Harvey Oswalding it. Like, he's in like a building and he kills grandma.
Yeah. Grandma's just left to die horribly. Grandma had a great chemistry with the main character.
I did like that. Was there anything to add to the Phantom other than
I mean, the thing is,
because that's who we're getting to next?
I think it's all great. I think everything about the killer until the reveal is great, and I don't even think the concept for the killer was wrong. I think it was just that they couldn't write a character interesting enough to actually make the villain, right?
Yeah.
When you have something like The Boy, I'm gonna say that it was a mistake to have Brahms be not supernatural at the end of the first one. A lot of people like that twist. It's having Brahms have some abilities clearly is more menacing than just having like someone who lives in the walls, right? Multiple spoilers in this episode. But
someone's like, "Damn it, I was going to watch The Boy, and then I was going to watch The Boy."
But that's the thing is,
fuck you guys,
right? Exactly. But this character could have been one that I would have been so interested if they had brought back.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. And the only defense I could make is that really the heritage, the legacy of the serial killing is the villain of this movie. It haunts the town. It traumatizes the people. They can't escape it. They talk about it. Random scenes from it flash up all the time.
Yeah.
The ultimate main character of this movie is introduced post, killing attempt under the screen of the movie while it's showing, right? Later.
And I will say that was one of my favorite shots is when our main girl is crawling and all the headlights flash up to take a look. That shot was a great shot. Beautiful. I loved that.
Great shot. And that's what I'm saying is that this movie had so much of tasty stuff like that to me that I didn't expect. That it reminded me of ultimately kind of, well, I don't want to talk about it because we're going to do better, same or worse. So we'll do that when we do that. But
order. The last thing of order was the side characters.
Oh, yeah,
and the way you build a good horror movie is you start with the middle class and build out.
I love that you framed it.
That's just how I thought
about it.
I
love how you framed it because I was thinking with the Batman, I had liked the central characters and didn't care about the peripheral characters. They didn't connect with me the way they connected with other people. I mean, I got that Colin Farrell's performance as the Penguin was great. I just thought the Penguin character was like so easy to defeat that I was so.
Well, I think we're getting a
spinoff, right?
Yeah.
but regardless, it's flipped here. In this one, I actually really cared about the peripheral characters like the grandma and Gary Cole, the police character, and all of the police characters, honestly, and their situation, all that. It reminded me of Twin Peaks a little bit. I liked the side characters.
Yeah, there was another cop too, another older cop who. I can't give him a name, but he's one of those guys when you see him, you're like, this is a good actor, right?
Right, and Lone Wolf came in with so much confidence, and then I expected him to be totally mean, but he was so supportive to her randomly. No one believed that she was trying to track down the killer, and he's like, no, we're going to listen to what she has to say. What she has to say is important.
I really liked that.
That's what I mean, is every time the movie had a chance to do the typical cliche, like whatever, not every time, but a lot of times it had a chance to do the cliche thing, it would be like, no. We're going to sit and listen to this person. This is important. I'm like, what is happening?
That was nice.
Why is it making these interesting choices where it didn't need to be honest? I mean, it was on the way to fail. It was for a franchise that not
the lone wolf character was great, and listening to her, he also didn't do a goddamn thing.
He did nothing.
None of the cops did. Gary Cole did the most, but what he got was shot in the eye.
What he got was that.
But you were saying the chemistry between Grandma and
the main character was great.
I really liked that, and Grandma was a great.
Who's your favorite main character? Peripheral character.
I don't want to copy and go with Grandma, but I mean she was a great actress.
Awesome, yeah.
I mean, her acting.
Veronica Cartwright, yeah, she was great.
It was probably the most solid because there were some actors who couldn't act. There was some.
That's true.
There was a wave of actors of acting ability, and hers was towards the top.
That's a true story. I also didn't ultimately care about the killers because of who they ended up being, so that was not great. Because then I don't care about the main So the main character's arc was interesting. The problem was that so much of that was a ripoff for the mechanism of who the killer was eventually, that it just, I mean,
I thought her acting was good.
She was fine. It was right. That was fine. It was just boring because you knew where it was headed.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say in the I don't want to jump back too far, but in the visuals there was a shot of Grandma's house, like that road. for some reason when I was watching, I could just like feel the humidity. Like it just
Yeah.
reminded me of like, I mean, I don't know if that area of the United States is humid, but it felt humid to me.
Totally.
Like, I don't know, there was just something about the way it looked where like you kind of felt it a
You
little
could
bit.
feel it. You could totally feel it.
But no, I did like our main final girl. I didn't really bump on it at all.
It
Like,
wasn't bumping on it. It was just that the movie had made interesting choices everywhere else, but the choices it was making for her journey and the journey of the people around her were basically the Jamie Lee Curtis arc.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
well,
like,
I know why.
it's not different.
It's funny. I actually I got up in the middle of the night, and my very first thought was
Because you were dreading Sundown.
no, opposite. Nobody in that town dreaded sundown. Nobody was dreading the sundown. Like, why? Think about it.
No, you're right. They thrived in Sundown.
There was nobody on.
That's how it came to life in Sundown.
There was nobody on screen who was like, "Is the sun going down?" Like nobody was dreading.
No.
This. Everyone just lived
30
their
Days
lives.
of Night should have been called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And
Yeah,
this
because that would have
movie-
been way more accurate. They would have been like, shit,
and
30
this movie
days of
should have been
sundown.
called 30 Days of Gary Cole.
Yo, that don't mess around, man. I think we could get a Hollywood some Hollywood money rolling in. Last order of discussion. I think that was the last order of discussion. So
yeah.
that brings us to better or
Yeah,
worse.
before we rate it, I wanted to try something in real time. I didn't.
Well, we used to do these for episodes.
Yeah.
It's so funny, dude. Like I keep unlocking shit we did for How Low Can We Go that like made it fun. And when you said better or worse last night, I was like, oh, I totally forgot we did that.
Right, totally.
It helped put the movie in perspective.
Right. So sometimes we would do like in the neighborhood. So wherever the movie's aggregated, we'd find the movies that are similar around it. But that wasn't that interesting this time. This time, so here's the thing about this to me. Maybe it's how I set my expectations going in, making me like movies like this and The Unborn more than most horror fans apparently do. Right. Or Dagon. Like this has happened to me a bunch of times, right? Where there's a level of expectation I have. And the thing is, I can almost set it. I can almost set it at a movie, right? Mm-hmm. I could be like, if the movie, right, is as good as a certain movie, then if it got over that, it was higher than what I was expecting it to do, right? But before, I don't want to give any examples because I want to give away. I just want to try a few to you. So I'm going to just randomly say names to you, and I want you to tell me better, worse, or same, or pass because you haven't seen it.
It's like an eye exam.
Because you haven't seen it. Right, exactly. So,
but during my eye exam, I feel like they always try to, they'll be like, one or two are the same. I'm like, same. And they're like, okay, you can pick one or the other. And I'm like, dude, you told me it was this. I don't know. That was.
What if Bob Iger gave you an eye exam?
He'd be like, here at the Walt Disney we won't let you unionize or get health insurance.
Wow.
I don't know if they do that. I don't know if they do that. But.
Okay. All right. So better, worse, or same? Valentine.
Ooh. Same.
Okay. Better, worse, or same? Halloween.
Oh, I liked Hollow Man.
I have no idea what you're going to say. I'm just randomly picking movies.
Oh man,
I'm picking movies that I thought were interesting to bump
aside
it,
from
to bump it into.
Aside from the scene in Hollow Man, I'd go with Hollow Man. Just just personal preference, man. That's just
House of Wax.
Now that's interesting. We talked about that. This is the first movie. These I gotta go with better, worse, or same. Better, but not.
Wait, you're saying Town is better?
Oh no. Same.
So you're saying this is okay? That's
House of Wax is
a little bit
slightly better.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought you were saying. Because right, I got it. Now, you must hate Vincent Price. I'm kidding.
I was like, no, we're totally doing the remake, you asshole. Don't pull that on me.
Totally kidding. Totally kidding. Crawl.
This is better.
Town is better.
Town is better than Crawl.
It Chapter 2.
Ooh. Wowza. I would watch Town That Dreaded Sundown before I watched It 2.
So
Chapter 2. Yeah.
Woman in Black.
Oh, which one? If we're doing the Daniel Radcliffe one, I would probably say Oh, jeez. I would probably I would rewatch Talent Dread Sundown. Or Woman in Black.
Lights Out.
Ooh. Worse. Lights Out was very. I mean, that's
like Lights Out.
that's
Lights
Fede
Out hits
Alvarez,
you.
man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he's good.
Right. Okay. That's what that's kind of what I thought. This is where I thought it was going to land. So Valentine is the movie that is my benchmark for this block of movies, right? Because I feel like Valentine is a movie that I expected to be disappointing, enjoyed while I watched it, let it sit for a while, rewatched it a few years later, thought this is pretty good, and then wasn't like super excited about it, but like think it's pretty good. And if it does better than Valentine, then it's in my category of all right. So you're the medium kind of horror movie that did better than you had to,
Right.
and this movie's better than Valentine by a lot, right? It's like the where it lands is weird to me. Like my barometer for how to judge this is telling me this movie is way past where my threshold should be, right?
Interesting.
But then I'll find some other movies in the category like Hollow Man. And like I'm like, I think this movie's way better than Hollow Man. I hate Hollow Man. So I was like, what's happening? Right? That's what I mean. It's like it's so weird. But when I started picking movies, so like for example, Friday the 13th, 2009. Is this better or worse than that?
Yikes.
Because I would say this is better or I enjoyed it more. And if it's better and I enjoyed it more, that means on this tiny budget, this movie that horror fans don't care about from a franchise that's dead did better than like whatever 40 million, 50 million. What was the budget on that movie?
I think it was Platinum Doom. I think.
I'm exaggerating, but it's a big budget movie comparatively. So
I would, but for me, I would probably.
you put Friday a little higher.
No, I think I'd probably put them probably about the same.
You'd say so.
Because the Friday 2009 version isn't my favorite.
Right.
So, it's not like some beloved. I don't have like a core memory of like watching it with like a theater or anything like that. So no, I'd probably put the same.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. So like if you were telling me that The Town That Dreaded Sundown, the movie that was most known to me going into it with what ridiculous looking trombone killing, has a remake, and in between nothing happened with this franchise, and what's my excitement level for it? And I go into watch the movie, and I go on the way in, I'm like, look. I can't believe I'm here to see this, but tell me that this is at least better than Friday the 13th, 2009. And you're like, this is good. I'm like, wow, that's better than I expected.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? That's how it played out for me.
Right.
Is how it goes. But Wrong Turn, you probably like way more.
Oh, no question.
Right. See, those are
Oh, which one? The remake?
Oh my God, you really hated that. I'm sorry. I was just kidding.
No, I did.
But to me, Wrong Turn I like this remake and Wrong Turn the same. Like to me, they feel about the same. I love the Wrong Turn design. I love the killer design in this. I liked some of the characters in each.
A lot of parallels, yeah.
I thought this movie tried more interesting things than Wrong Turn tried, so it was a little more ambitious. But I felt like it got less right horror-wise than Wrong Turn did, so more fail. Same.
Kind of balances out. Right. Okay, so let's end it with some ratings.
Yes, I'm just 70. Flat 7. Wait, what year do you think this movie, what year vibe did this movie give you? Like the color and all that. Was it early 70s, mid 70s, late 70s?
No, I didn't think it was anywhere near the 70s.
No, not where it was set. Like it was homaging. Like did it?
I thought it was homaging like 76.
Okay, 76%. That's where I rated it.
That's where you rate it. I would do 61.
Just over fresh. That's fair. That's totally. It's 66 right now, Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 66.
But for critics, I don't know what the audience score was.
Audience score here, I can tell you. I can.
We have that technology.
Yeah, we have the technology. 40%.
Oh, okay. So you're generous compared to how audiences took that movie. All right. Well, this is also going to be interesting. So I was thinking this the other day. I just want to like close on this and then whatever you have for close, because it occurred to me the other day that I was trying to think of a podcast that talks about things that are subjective, not like facts or not like Sean Carroll Mindscape where they're just talking hard science or whatever, but like something where you could reasonably have two different sides of an opinion, right? And what level of agreement do I have with them? Like, how much do I agree with the podcasts I listen to?
Right.
The review ones, right? So, like, for example, the Bill Simmons, like, he gives a lot of sports opinions, right? So I agree with him like 60% of the time.
Right.
So I'm listening to a podcast that I agree with just over half. Almost half the time this podcast is saying things I don't agree with, right? But I'm listening to it. So how much do you agree or don't agree with the things you listen to? And then how much, is it exciting for you when you find something where you're always agreeing, right? Mm-hmm. Is kind of like what I was toying with in my head about, this movie, as the further we go into the how low we go process, the more we're going to be theoretically disagreeing with more people as we go lower.
Right.
We're going to be watching movies that more and more people hated, right? So at some point, we're going to find a movie at like 5% that 95% of humanity hates. And we're going to be like, this is good.
Yeah.
This is the task we've set ourselves, right? So then I was wondering, is it annoying to listen to something that you don't agree with more and more and more? And then I realized I don't care, but it was just as a side, thought of what's happening.
It's weird.
Here.
I was trying to think
because we're going to be chasing this down, right?
Well,
we're less and less people.
It's interesting because we like Pat Flannery. Is that his last name?
Mm-hmm.
The What Makes the Song Stink guy. And like I agreed with his last video he did about Danny California. Like I hate that song.
Mm-hmm.
And he also did Beverly Hills from Weezer, and I hate that song. So far, I kind of like it when I agree with them.
Right. Well, of course.
I would like to. I wonder what it would be like if he did a song that
right.
I enjoyed. He's like, well, I can't take my eyes off you. Frankie Valli sucks. I'd be like, well, hold up.
Well, it's not. Yeah, but it's not just that. It's also I like Bloody Good Horror, a podcast that I really like that does review horror movies. I haven't been able to listen to. They've shuffled their hosts. I haven't listened to much recently, but the old iterations of the hosts. I know, like, of the host, I'll probably agree with Eric like 2 out of 3 times. I'm going to disagree with Casey a lot of the time. It's not a thing. It's just different people have different tastes or whatever. What I appreciate is that that I get it all. I wouldn't want to listen to the Eric show and just have someone who I agree with all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not built that way. I don't want to hear just the agreement part of it all the time. So that's what I'm hoping as the further lower we go. that spirit lives somewhere, because we're gonna be raving movies at 2%, or maybe not. Maybe this all will be terrible. We'll find out.
There's only one way to find out. That's just the quickest way to get there straight across. We're gonna just keep
straight fucking down.
Yeah, straight down, dude. Right. We're gonna figure that out. So, let us know what you think. If you like Dreaded Sundown,
if you saw Talented,
if you're one of the
that $154,000 it made,
if $12 of that is you, let us know. I'd be curious via a 5-star Amazon review. Also, we're still talking about Horror Hotel. Mm-hmm. We're going to be doing some giveaways. We actually have stuff created. Mm-hmm. By the time this episode's out, the contest should be up and running. So for more details on that, go to our Facebook page. It'll probably be the pinned post on there.
Yes. Depending on when you're hearing this. If you're hearing this, soon after it's released, it'll definitely be in there. It's facebook.com/HelloWeekly.
And if you're listeing to this 2 years afterwards,
there's
probably a sequel.
No, we just walked away from the page. And just left it.
That was it.
Just left it there. Hi from the past. Keep entering.
Dust our hands off and walk.
It's go home, Bueller. The prizes are gone.
The prizes are gone. Until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies, and we'll talk to you. We'll see you guys at 47%.
Bye.
Bye-bye.